Hey, what's going on, everybody? Rockie Ventura here, your John Maxwell speaker, coach, and trainer. Today, we're carrying on the 16 leadership values. Today, we'll be speaking on the second value, which is the topic of growth. And this basically says the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better is that you grow today. I'd like you to imagine just for a little bit, maybe close your eyes and think about a garden. Think about a gardener. The gardener's walking through that garden, and perhaps right now at this moment it's empty, nothing in it. You look around and you ask the question, what do I want to grow? You start thinking, you start looking, and in your mind you say, well, I guess what I want to grow will be based on what I need, maybe what I want. And you start putting those things together, and then you go out and you get those seeds. You say, I want an apple. You get an apple seed. You say you want some oranges. You get some orange seeds. You start thinking about what is needed to grow those things. The environments, the ground, the work, the water, the soil, the fertilizer. And as you plant those seeds, you start realizing it's not just going to pop up overnight. You're aware. You did your homework. It takes time, the process. And then the seeds start to sprout. You start seeing change from the seed. It dies. The actual seed dies and it becomes something, and it grows. And the growth gets bigger and bigger until one day you wake up and you see the first signs of the fruit. More time goes and you start seeing more fruit. And then harvest time comes where all of it's out and you're able to grab it and reap from that. And you take from the harvest what you put into. Right? What you sow is what you reap. The law of the harvest. This is the growth lesson we'll be learning today, and I'm super excited to be sharing this with you. I will start off on the first topic. As we said in our story, you have to be intentional about this. All right? Growth. And when I say growth, we were talking about the gardener and the seed. But your life is growth. And you want to get better. You say your seed is that you want money. You say your seed is that you want the next promotion. You say your seed, you want your children to be good and have a better life. But what are you planting? Right? You say you want those things, but is that what you're planting? Because what's coming out on the other end, if you planted an orange, you're saying you want apples. Guess what you're going to get? You're going to get an orange, right? And so you have to be intentional about what it is you want. And when you know what you want, you have to do something about it. Here at the John Maxwell Team, when we focus on the topic of growth, personal growth, we recommend that people start in two areas, okay? And this is assuming you're brand new to personal growth. We recommend that you start on your values, okay? I mentioned last time in lesson 1, values is what drives you, your behavior. This is where you're going to spend your focus. Your conduct will be impacted by this. So, for instance, if you value honesty, you're not going to be telling lies. You're going to be telling the truth, right? You're going to stay away from liars. If you value faith, you're going to be going to church. That's a high value for you, so you're going to be reading the Bible. You're going to be praying. Whatever you say you value, that's what you're going to become. And this is why at the John Maxwell Team, we recommend that you always start on your values. You can start reading up on values. Hey, you can continue watching these 16 lessons on leadership values, but developing your values is going to change you in the inside. And once you start changing in the inside, your outside will start to follow. When you feel pretty confident in that, the other thing that we recommend you also focus on is your strengths, okay? Now, you can try to add on new things, but depending on how old you are, maybe you're still young, you're a youth, then find out what your strengths are, right? And that's only going to be done by trying new things. You have to try new things. You have to try jobs. You have to read books. You have to keep doing new things in order to understand what you're good at. But chances are, if you're older, if you're already adult and you're in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on, chances are you know what you're good at by now, right? And you know where your strengths are, and you absolutely know what your weaknesses are by now, probably. And so if you don't know these areas, there are several assessments that you can take online. I mean, for some of them, a lot of them are free. You can go online and take a career assessment, personality assessment. You can start determining what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. But I recommend that you do that. But once you find out what your strengths are, then start focusing on those strengths. Some of you are already in your strengths and you're doing them, right? You may be working already. And you may be already doing these things. Like I'm in the Army, and one of my strengths in the Army is to work as a team. The Army is everything is based on team. So what do? I learn how to work as a team. I start reading books on teamwork and how to work effectively. And now that I'm an officer, as I lead, I have to learn how to be a leader. So this is a strength that I'm working on as well. And I continue to grow in these things. As a John Maxwell speaker, coach, and trainer, I focus on being a coach. How do you do that, right? Well, pick up coaching books. How do you speak? Well, go speak. Join the local Toastmasters and learn how to speak. But it requires intentionality, okay? So we recommend that you focus on your values, which is going to change your inside. Those are things like integrity and attitude and choice. Today we're learning on personal growth. Personal growth is a value. If you place personal growth as a high value, then your lifestyle will say, I'm going to start learning, I'm going to start reading, I'm going to start watching YouTube videos on whatever it is your strengths are. So I do encourage you to focus on your values and focus on your strengths. Okay, number 2, growth thrives in the right environments. Now, I think you know that this is pretty evident just by saying that, right? Like if you want to grow, you have to place yourself in the right environments. And I just wanted to quickly go over a few areas, a few environments that you can put yourself in that will help you. Number 1, always keep others ahead of you. And what that means is keep maybe your field, right? Say, I want to be a speaker. Well, then I always want to keep looking at people who do this for a living and make millions, right, doing it. These are your John Maxwells, your Tony Robbins, and so forth. I'm looking at them, I'm watching how they do things, and I'm learning their business mindset, the business model, and I want to grow in these things, right? In the Army, I'm looking at commanders who are doing this well, and I'm looking at good leaders and good NCOs who are they just resonate leadership all over them, because I want to be a good leader myself. All right, so always put people ahead of you so that you know the bar is set high, and you can have something to achieve. Always place yourself in an environment of people who are going to encourage you. Now, you don't want to be around someone who's going to be negative all the time, right? Why are you doing that? That is stupid. Or, you're never going to make no money off that. That's silly, right? And that's all it takes for your dream to get shattered. So place yourself around people like-minded in where you want to go, and keep yourself there, all right? Stay focused. There are a lot of things. I know some books call these masterminds, where all the masterminds get together. And a mastermind is maybe you're I don't know, we could pick any field, right? You're an electrician. Hey, shout out to my friend Rob out there. But let's use electrician, for example. If you want to be a good electrician, you have to place yourself with other electricians who are good. And then read a electrician's manual, a magazine. In that growth, maybe join an electrician's organization so you can find out what is the latest and greatest technology going out there, so you're always on top of your field. But make sure that you're being proactive and be around people who are going to encourage you. Here's another quick one. Always place yourself outside of your comfort zone. The minute you're comfortable, you're already not growing. I can tell you that right now, because growth always hurts to go. You always got to pay a cost to go to the next level. If you're not paying a cost, you're not going to the next level. And this is why it always baffles me when people want to grow and then they're like, well, how much is that again? It costs to go to the next level. Not just money, but time and energy. How hard is that going to be? I don't think so, right? But the thing is, we did this in school, in middle school, elementary, high school. We always had to pay the cost to get the grades. It doesn't change when you graduate, except that no one's forcing you to do it anymore. You have to apply yourself to keep paying the cost. And that's your comfort zone that we're talking about. If you want to grow, you have to get yourself out of that comfort zone. Hey, here's another one. Failure's not your enemy, okay? It's okay to fail. I know Priscilla and I, we try to teach our kids this concept. Hey, you're going to fail. In fact, we tell them, and not in a negative way, by the way, like, hey, make sure you, but we'll say, if you fail, that's okay. But we let them know up front before they do something, because we want them to know that, hey, it's not realistic to think that the first time's always go. That is silly. I've never done that. I mean, when I go into school, I failed in a few grades, and everything I've done in the Army, even in the Army too, like, I have failed, okay? And if you're in the right environments where failure is okay, and they treat it as a learning process and not a you're in trouble process, those are the right environments you want to be in. So make sure you place yourself in those environments. And then just another one, lastly, is you want to be in an environment where other people are growing too. If people are not growing around you, I can tell you it's going to be like being in a garden and you're with a bunch of weeds. Weeds always kill that plant. Okay, that's why gardeners prune them out. They take out the negative influences and they start allowing themselves to grow with other fruit, because they grow together, right? You make sure you place yourself in an environment where you feel comfortable that other people are growing and they want to grow with you, and you'll see some success there. Okay. Number 3, how I grow affects me. Okay. You continue to grow, it's going to affect you, even if just a little bit. Do a little bit a day and a little bit a day. And you might not see growth, right away, but the more and more you do, the more growth you're going to see eventually. So continue growing in your life, and make sure that you keep on going, because that consistency will compound after time. Okay. Here's number 4. Growth requires time. I can't just, as a gardener, I can't go to my garden and say, I want to eat that apple right now. I just planted it this morning, but man, I sure do want that. I can't pull it out. It takes time. It's called the law of process, right? You got to allow yourself to take time. You don't want to put yourself in an environment where you're forced to make things happen all of a sudden, right? Like, I know, like the military, for example, we do a fitness test. I'm not going to wait to get fit one day before the fitness test. If I know it's coming a month, 2 months, 3 months out, I'm going to be focusing on the run, the sit-ups, and the push-ups, because those are the areas that we're going to be tested in, right? I'm not just going to be the day before, let me just do a bunch of them the night before. That's going to cause me to have pain because I hadn't worked out in a while. So these are things that can affect me if I thought like that. But my strategy is just always be ready. And I'm glad the military makes us work out, right? We get paid to work out pretty much. And so I'm always ready for the fitness test. They can always give it to me at any time. And I'm ready because I work out on all these things anyway. It's not a surprise. But it takes time. If you're just getting started and you're working out, don't expect to lose 20 pounds in the first week. It's not realistic. Set realistic goals and know that your growth is going to take time. Here's another comment I wanted to pull out from that area. Okay. What you feed is what's going to grow. If you continue to feed in fear, right? Like if you're always like, I don't want to, I'm scared, I want to do, you feed in that fear factor. If you feed that, it's going to grow. I'm not saying you won't get scared, but you have to change the way you think. You have to start saying, I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to do it. I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to do it. And then eventually the little nervous goes away. You may feel like that, but you stop saying it, right? Because whatever you keep saying is what you're going to be. So just get rid of that language altogether, okay? Growth takes time. You have to be patient with yourself in this growth process, all right? Hey, lastly, I just want to give you some benefits about growth. All right, when you start growing, your potential is going to get unlocked. I mean, your success is going to be on your radar because as you grow, all it takes is one thought, right? Like, what's the one thought? You think about people who've invented things, the light bulb, the ability to fly, right? Flying, the Wright brothers. all it took was one thought. What's the value of a thought to you? Where do you get these thoughts from? Well, you open up your potential, and that you do that by reading, looking at other people who are successful. Be proactive in looking at people who are successful, right? If you're in a career field, what makes that executive person, the highest ranking person in your career field, how did they get there? And why did they get there? What put them there, right? Be aware of that. Don't just go to work and be like, man, just real. No, start looking at people. What makes them successful? It's that awareness that sparks your growth, and that growth will put you in the right trajectory to go there. All right. Feel good about it. Makes you feel good about yourself the minute you start growing. I mean, let's take the area of weight, for example. Say you start losing weight, you do feel good about yourself. I know when I got my bachelor's, like, wow, it just blew my mind. I never thought I would get a bachelor's. And then I saw someone tell me, well, why don't you go to a master's? And I'm like, a master's? For real? And then it's just like the idea was like so far from me, because I didn't think like that. But then someone challenged me, and I saw that people got it, and I said, I'm going to get a master's. I tell you, getting that master's just put me on another level. Like, it was a level like I can do anything that I want to do at this point. And at this point, I do plan on getting my doctorate degree, my PhD. And so in psychology, I'm excited about this, but I wouldn't have been there if I hadn't been exposed, had those people in my life to challenge me to go higher and set a higher standard. All right. When you start growing in humility. Your values and your strengths start becoming stronger. You start becoming more self-aware of what you can do. And those things that you currently can't do, you start becoming aware that it's still a possibility that you can do it. All right. You become more so that you can do more. The more you become, right, the greater you become, the more you're able to do. If I lift weights, then I naturally can lift more weights because I get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's just the way growth works. Lastly, you become the example for others to follow. All right, so today, choose with me today that you'll choose to make good choices that will positively affect your life and affect others. Hey, I hope this lesson was a good lesson for you. Growth is one of those values that it's a choice. You have to place it as a choice, and you have to value that, right? When you start valuing personal growth, you start telling yourself, I have to do it. And you start finding ways to do it. I remember my excuse was, I don't like to read. I hate reading it. And to this day, I do. Like, I have dyslexia and I have ADD probably. And who knows what else, right? I struggle with it. I shouldn't say I have it. But I struggled with those things in the past. And so these things always limited me to want to be better and do better. And then someone said, well, just listen to an audiobook. And I was like, an audiobook? I was like, that's stupid. And I started saying all this bad stuff. But then it just like started resonating in my head, like, audiobook. So I downloaded an audiobook. It was free on Audible. And I downloaded an audiobook. And I was like, okay, well, when I moved, in the military, we move a lot. And when we moved to Seattle in 2016, this was one of the first times that I really started getting into audiobooks. And I tell you what, the commute was crazy on I-5 out there. And I started listening to audiobooks, and slowly but surely, I started finishing a book here and a book there. And it just started growing after that. And I was like, wow, I finished that book. Okay. And it was hard for me initially because I was used to listening to music, but I was like, I grew to a phase where I was like, oh, the music sounds the same, right? I started becoming that adult where, it's like, oh, they don't make music like they used to anymore and stuff, right? Every generation says that about the next generation, right? Like, oh, your music is silly. But anyway, I became in that category, right? I went into that category. I started saying music. So then if that was the case, if I was complaining about it, I was like, well, what am I going to replace it with? Because I still had the commute. So I started replacing it with audio books, and I started growing in audiobooks, and 1 became 2, 2 became 3. I mean, to this day, I think I've read over 80 audiobooks. All right, 80 audiobooks and since 2016. That's crazy, but that's what I've read. And you think I learned a thing or two since then? Yeah, right. And I'm very intentional now of who I pick. And yeah, it costs money for an audiobook, but what's the price of a thought? Right? I mean, you're paying a Netflix subscription. What does it do for you? You may be paying other subscriptions. How is that going to benefit your goal? Look, I'm not downing on those things. But if you're willing to pay for things that are not going to invest in you, you get where I'm going? Paying a subscription to Audible. And look, I'm not no marketer for Audible or nothing, but that's an example, right? Even YouTube, you can get a lot of these audiobooks for free on YouTube. Some people, have them there. They do lectures. A lot of these lectures, this is free. What's the value of learning your thought from this video, right? Your time. So anyways, I just wanted to share how I grew in that area. But this completes the lesson on growth. I want to thank you for your time. And I hope you'll give it some serious consideration as you start to grow and see that you have to be intentional with it. And when you start doing it, you start being intentional about the seed you want. If you want an apple, plant an apple seed. All right. You can't just say I want an apple and you get freaked out when an orange comes out because you in fact planted an orange and not an apple. You have to be intentional. Know what you want. What you work on today is going to affect your tomorrow. So, hey, thank you. I pray that everyone, gets this lesson and is able to apply it in their life. I know you're going to see a big difference. You take care, and I'll see you next time. Lesson 3 is on attitude. I can't wait to share that with you. Take care. Be blessed. God is good.